Hey, this is Chris Parsons from The Last Click. Thanks for joining another episode. Really excited and surprised to actually run into Lawrence here at the conference. It was a great surprise. Lawrence Williams is from an organization called Tulip. We've been connected over the years, just from events like this through our social connections. Really wanted to get into the conversation. One, what brought you to CommerceNext, and then two, first, actually, if you can do an intro for the audience so people that are not familiar can get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Lawrence Williams. I lead solution strategy at Tulip. Tulip is a clienteling platform. So think of like what Salesforce does for B2B sellers. We do that for store associates, helping people follow up and build relationships. Very meaningful to me. I was actually, I've only been in tech for a few years, but I was a sociologist at the University of Toronto, and I studied how people found meaning at work. So now I get to I'm at this to answer the second question. I'm at CommerceNext, just chatting with retailers about, what they're doing in the wake of AI. What does it mean to really enable people with AI and have employee facing AI rather than just, flooding the world with AI slop?
We were talking as we were walking here to do the podcast about this almost paralyzing state that kind of retailers are in right now, where the shift is happening so fast that it feels like they're they're overanalyzing instead of testing and learning and feeling that confidence in testing and learning. They're wanting to get this so right that it's just stopping them from actually taking a little bit of steps instead of trying to be a full rollout. And it's just an interesting vibe in the last few months in where retailers. You feeling the same thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like almost like equal parts. I don't want to say optimism, but whatever the word is, and here, where it's kind of like, okay, the world is moving in this way. We have to make sure every customer journey now is perfect because AI can make it seemingly perfect or superficially perfect. But then what I'm seeing falling through the cracks are a lot of like basic things, like what about store training? What about associate enablement? What about, looking at store level strategies versus corporate? It seems it's very laser focused on like getting all of our data into our AI systems and perfecting these hypothetical journeys that I don't know. I'm interested. There is sort of a backlash going on with a lot of people I'm talking to, but I'm excited to see how the things evolve. But right now it does kind of feel like feast or famine all in on AI.
Yeah, and I write about it in the book. I'm really nostalgic. I love the traditional side of retail, and I always felt it was a relationship base with the customer versus so heavily leveraging technology. Because you leverage technology, understand their personas and their likes and dislikes, and do a great job of marketing to them. But you're still just this digital screen that's marketing to them without, you're missing the relationship piece. And and maybe I'm just on wrong generation now for this because I do appreciate walking into any of my local stores and they know the project that I've been working on, or they know the last outfit I've bought, making suggestions for me. Because sometimes in some of these categories, I don't know, like they know it better than I do. And to be able to get that expertise because they know who I am and really know me is something I miss in retail.
Well, and I think there's a whole, there still are pockets of people that want where they see like, I mean, the store as like a community hub.
Hmm.
And I think even now you mentioned, we're not like Gen Alphas or whatever, but honestly, when I was studying young people, even back when I was a sociologist, like like the group shopping, going to malls, like we're both from Toronto, like I think of the Well, and
Right.
then like Royal Mount in Montreal and all these more high concept malls where they actually have like fitness classes and things. So people are viewing a mall as like a community space. And I think, the more that that happens, the more that retailers will say, okay, maybe people don't need these like perfect like product pushes at the right time, but they need to feel seen and heard. Which is
Yeah.
really like what the classic department store was. Like I come in and I trust that it has everything I want and I can order via the catalog and they know me and so I don't know. I think the tides are going that way, but it's hard in the wake of like, well, everyone can just buy everything on e-commerce and let's just make sure it's perfect and reduce the return rate by making sure the recommendations right. It's like very scientized.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, the amount of returns in my neighborhood lately going back to Amazon. I mean,
Oh,
thank God
really?
they make it so simple, but because you're reading as much content as you can, but it ends up being the wrong size or the wrong dimensions, and you thought you measured twice and it's still wrong, or it comes and it's damaged versus being able to go look at that physical box, get the one you want, and you feel like all of these moments of shopping online are convenient, but when you have to get into the process of doing a return now all of a sudden, it would have been faster to just go 5 minutes down to the store, pick it up, and then you don't have any of those other opportunities. So
Well,
it's
and I think
interesting.
in that exact example too, right? Like paradoxically, all of these investments that just live behind the digital screen
Mm,
are making brands more interchangeable,
right.
which is then they're losing, what are you differentiating on? Especially, I mean, not to get AI's thing, obviously already, I'm sure, having massive implications on like product development. I know in tech it is, but in actual like retail, clothing and things, and think of the Lululemons that started as product tech companies, and what'll that mean is people get more innovative in terms of their products and supply chain, efficiencies and things. And then you step back and you're like, what are we competing on? Is it like, is it really just the products, or isn't it the experience as well? And you think of all of the, flagship brands around the world. Obviously in luxury, they
Right.
double down on that. But I have been seeing now in more mid-market, even mass market brands saying, no, we have great employees. We take pride in them, and we know people come to the store for a reason, and they trust us. So I think that tension is it can be healthy.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's where you mentioned the associates. I think that's where retailers really undervalue their associates because those associates are your brand.
Mhm.
And you can have any fancy commercial you want that promises, you know, whatever your brand stands for. But the moment that a customer gets into the store level, those associates become that brand. And any of the messaging that you had, if they're not living up to it, it is an instant disconnect.
Yeah.
And I think retailers need to go back to some of those basics and make sure that is that strategy that they're doing at the home office trickling all the way down through operations into the ground floor. So the hiring, the type of people you're looking for. I mean, I think that as an example, even though I don't shop or don't purchase a lot of Starbucks, but I know when I go to Starbucks, that bubbly personality, that one
Yeah.
that's like anxious to serve me, is consistent. And
Yeah.
that brand recognition is so ingrained in me. I know what I'm going to get from a staff member. Whereas if I walk into any other retailer, it's hit or miss on what that experience is going to be.
Well, and think, and that's kind of the magic of clienteling, right? It's saying like marketing's doing a fantastic job at keeping people engaged, usually digitally, sometimes with like physical mail and things like that. But if you get associates involved, then it's not just about the output. Because I think sometimes people think, okay, what's the, we talk about proactive outreach, which is basically associate-led marketing, sending the email, sending the text, personalizing. That's fantastic, and you'll get an ROI on that. But for me, again, maybe just my background as a sociologist, the bigger implication I see is that you are now engaging your associates to know like what good customer service really looks like. And it's not about making them marketers, but it's saying like, why do they want me to send these messages? How is this making people feel? Well, you see it in the reply. Thanks for the recommendation. Thanks. Can I book an appointment? And then they start to see, wow, like I'm actually being, a great salesperson.
Yeah.
And then that helps them in their career. That then mitigates some of, the turnover issues retailers are having. And there's conversations around career pathing. People are making money. So I think again, investing in your people that way, it's like, yes, the customer outcome obviously matters in terms of buying, but the customer outcome in terms of that experience matters. And then if they're having a great experience, the employees too.
Mm.
So I think that's, it's definitely not either or, but in many conversations, unfortunately, it's kind of like, how can AI like help me know everything about my customers and like send them the perfect message?
Yeah. I was having a conversation with some young folks the other day that were taking on jobs in retail. And I felt that the biggest disconnect is they just considered it a job and not
Yeah.
a route to a career. And you can have a very great career in retail. And I think when they start, they think of it as just a part-time job that they have to show up for the evenings and a few hours here on the weekends. And they're not really considering and maybe because they went first to school for a certain subject and they just haven't gone into that field yet, but they're not really like, open-minded to that long-term career that, I mean, I don't remember what Walmart store managers were making, but it was a well into the close to 200,000 at the time.
Yeah.
And it's probably around there more now. That's a pretty nice salary for some folks to make. So I think as corporations, the messaging that they have to get down to their staff, especially the ones starting out, is even though it might not be your end goal, what you're learning here is transferable.
Yep, absolutely. And that's again, I'm not as someone that works for a clienteling software company, I'm not going to say, that the software doesn't help. It does. But what it's enabling are core competencies that will help you in any career, right? The idea of keeping track of your customer base, knowing you have a customer base, reaching out to them. And again, that concept of being a great store associate, right?
Mhm.
That it makes sense that someone, Walmart would invest in a manager knowing the revenue. And we still know what's the status. Still over 80% of sales are made in store,
Yeah.
right? And you need to keep, and again, that's because there is a je ne sais quoi about the store. It's reliable. It's, I've had a long day. I don't want to have to be behind a screen and like look at items separately. I want to just go in and have an experience and
Yeah.
maybe, have a coffee. Like think of Indigo and how, it blends the cafe. And that's increasing. Aritzia is doing that now too. So many brands are blending like experience and retail into truly experience because it's, again, it's a psychology background. There's a lot of unconsciousness
Yeah.
and just, habitual things with shopping. It's not so deliberate. Oh, I want to get the perfect recommendation at the perfect time in the perfect channel.
Yeah.
Sure, that can help, that can nudge, but it's actually a lot easier than that, I think.
I agree. I mean, I think I was just going through an experience where I bought these TVs and I did all the research in the world on getting the right TVs for my bonus room, it's called in Edmonton. And I have two TVs in the same room, but I did all the shopping and researching online where I should have asked more questions because I actually put in two Samsung TVs into the same room. And the opportunity I have now is when I turn on one, both turn on. And when I
Mm,
turn off one, they both turn off. So I have to like do this balancing act of where I'm pointing it to get one TV to turn on. And I'm sure if I would have had a conversation at store
yeah.
level, the sales rep would have known this and said, "Hey, I recommend that you an LG and a Samsung." And you might sacrifice a little bit of quality, or you might not, but you might, but you won't have this opportunity of two TVs turning on every time. But I'd maybe just want to watch one.
Well, it's so funny. I always use the example, right? Before I go to a restaurant, especially if it's more expensive, I'll look up the menu and I'll kind of make up my mind on what I want. But I will always ask the server if they seem friendly.
Yeah.
I'll ask them like, "This is what I'm thinking. Like, what would you pick?" And then it's of my options. And then I say, "Okay, my options aside, what would you really pick?"
Right.
And it makes them so happy. A, but B, it's also, they know this. And if I tell them, it's like with, beauty products or scents or whatever, like they know this and they see it all the time and they hear the real feedback on the floor. I don't have to just trust the marketing or the whatever or like, and then, I'm never disappointed. And maybe I just have no palate and I'm easy to please, but
No,
that as a strategy has always worked for me.
it's
And it
so
makes me think
true.
of other retail experiences where it's trust. And that's, they're trust brokers and that's what you're buying. And then I'm more likely to go back. And it's very hospitable.
It made me think of this experience. I went into a restaurant. My go-to is fish and chips. I love fish
Mm.
and chips. And I ordered fish and chips, and the lady was like, "No, you don't want that." And that's how honest she was like, find something else on the menu. And I was so appreciative,
Worse. Yeah.
not spending $25 and having an okay meal and getting something else off the menu that she had confidence in that I would be satisfied.
Well, and think of how difficult or impossible it would be to train AI models to make those sort of like deductions that she did. But
Right.
you'd have to weigh cost benefit of which products do you recommend, which food. Oh, this one's not liked, but maybe this person will like. It's we're not. I don't know if we'll ever be there or
Right.
what episode of Black Mirror we would have to be in to be there, but we're not there. And so I think to come full circle on the AI piece, it's how can you help your associates so they don't have to be sorting through a million notes and making phone calls and all these things, but like in a perfect world, hey, this is Amber. This is what she likes. These are some things the system recommends, but
Mm.
use your judgment kind of thing. And I think that's been our philosophy of late at Tulip, of especially because we work in like all areas ranging from super high touch, super high AOV luxury to more mass market, $30 t-shirts.
Yeah.
And the common thread is just, help the associates know, hey, probably these are the items you should recommend, that sort of thing. These are the customers you should talk to, but the rest is up to you.
Yeah. So for the audience that doesn't are not familiar with Tulip, you want to start from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So Tulip is a clienteling platform. It enables store associates to really build deep relationships. Like our tagline is, retail's deepest relationships run on Tulip. And so it's, again, ranging from luxury like Jimmy Choo and Chanel to even furniture. So like Our House, Wayfair, Ethan Allen, any brand that says, hey, our store associate or even our we call them like e-com clientelers, but basically a human in the loop is key to the customer experience. And that's made evident by the fact that, people that are touched by associates typically spend more and stay longer with the brand. So we work with brands where that is kind of one of their mandates. Often they'll have a clienteling mandate. Again, it's kind of a niche term, but really it's think of someone with a digital black book. It's their old black book now turned into code online and pushed into their phone, pushed into their iPad, saying, hey, reach out to these people, let them know about a promo. This person came in for an appointment. Again, it's not anything super deep, as the Gen Alphas would say or whatever, but it's making people feel like the VIPs that they are when they come in. And again, I think in this realm of AI accelerating the development of so many things, that's one thing it can't fully accelerate. It can just enable, because at the end of the day, people buy from people.
I couldn't agree more, especially in our type of business. That's why we come to these events, because you send out an
Right.
email.
Why be here if that's case in point of why clienteling matters? Why there's a certain thing of capturing them. And me, when I just had a couple of meetings, they're like, make sure you book the meeting, make sure you whatever. I'm like, it has to be in person. It's not,
Great.
so.
Yeah, yeah. So great. As we wrap up here, how can folks get a hold of you? What's the best way? I'll put your description and LinkedIn information in the description and make sure, but what's your preference?
Yeah. So on LinkedIn, my name's Lawrence Williams, and then my email is lawrence.williams@tulip.com. And yeah, if you're ever interested, even just in learning more about clienteling in general, I have a clienteling playbook that I post. Try to do it every week or so on LinkedIn as well, where I just share what I'm seeing in the field. But again, technology aside, always happy to talk about clienteling. But of course, if your business needs it, that's even better.
Amazing. Thanks for doing this today. Really appreciate it. Guys, go and search for Lawrence, because even if you are following him, with LinkedIn, I'll only say, I think 5 or 10% of the audience see our posts now. So make the effort to go and look for his information. You won't be disappointed. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris.
Awesome.